पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन कृतितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्ससुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं भीष्मद्रोण तथा जयद्रथजलां गान्धारनीलोत्पलां शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुलाम् अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोतीर्णाः खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगण्डोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। ॐ कृष्णाय परमात्मने नमः। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकञ्चापि नमामि विद्यै। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्यासम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितप्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। Pranams everyone. We are doing the second chapter where Bhagavan is explaining Atma Tattva, or Bhagavan is giving Atma Tattva. Atma Tattva, he is giving the features of Atma. So first of all, it all started because Bhagavan said a wise man does not have any sorrow, do not grieve. Wise men do not grieve. So the question is, then wise men means jnani. So Bhagavan talks about people who are knowledge, who do not have ignorance. What sort of ignorance? We saw the ignorance of self. Then we wanted to know who, when we say self, when we say I, who am I? And then we discussed about the three types of bodies: Stula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira. And then we said we are not any of those. The Stula, Sukshma, Karana, Shariras, the gross, subtle and the causal bodies are inert in nature. They are not sentient. And the sentiency and the consciousness comes out of a principle called Atma. So Atma is separate from these three principles. And this Atma, we started off saying Atma is Nitya. So consciousness principle is eternal. And then the second, in Sloka 13, we saw consciousness principle is Nirvikaraha. Consciousness principle does not undergo any change. Anything that does not undergo any change is eternal. So consciousness principle is eternal and unchanging. And then Bhagavan took a slight detour. In Sloka 14 and 15, Bhagavan basically discussed about the attitude that one must have towards Anatma. So basically to Arjuna's, if Arjuna had come up with a question saying, okay, I know that Atma, or I am not worried about the Atma, I am more worried about the Anatma, which is the bodies of Bhishma and Drona, and that I don't want them to die. Bhagavan basically said, Anatma is bound to undergo a change. They are bound to have all those changes going through, and they are bound to die. And what should be our attitude towards that? Bhagavan basically said in Sloka 14 and 15, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama payino nityaha tam stitikshasva bharata. So he basically said we have to have titiksha towards it. We are bound to face pairs of opposites in life, and we have to take them in an equanimous manner. Then further he said in 15, Yamhina Vyatayantyete Purusham Purusharshaba Samadukha Sukham Dhiram Somrutatvaya Kalpate. And the person who is able to not get disturbed, who is able to take both the pain and pleasure in the same manner, that person alone becomes fit for immortality, becomes fit for this jnana, becomes fit for getting this Aham Brahmasmi knowledge. So Bhagavan basically explained that in Sloka 15. Now in Sloka 16, Bhagavan comes back to Atma Vichara. And this Sloka 16 is a very complex sloka. So we'll try to understand to the best of our ability. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Nasato Vidyate Bhavaha Nabhavo Vidyate Sataha Ubayorapi Drishtomtaha Tvanayos Tattva Darshibihi Nasato Vidyate Bhavaha Nabhavo Vidyate Sataha Ubhayorapi Drishtomtaha Tvanayos Tattva Darshibihi. So Bhagavan, after mentioning Atma Nityaha, Atma Nirvikaraha, so whenever we use Atma Nityaha, then we'll have to add Anatma Anityaha. Atma Nirvikaraha, Anatma Savikaraha. So Bhagavan goes back to Atma Vichara. This particular shloka is a very technical shloka. It is one of the deepest verses, and if we are able to understand the meaning to this, and if we are able to apply the meaning on this on our daily lives, then we can proudly claim that we are in the state of moksha. Of course, when we actually fully go through this shloka, once the meaning is all explained, it might look as if it is very simple, and I can even claim that we know this already. It is not about whether we know this already or not, it is about whether we are able to apply this in our life or not. And this particular shloka's essence is basically Atma Satyaha Anatma Mitya. We don't say Asatya, we say Mitya. Atma Satyaha. Satyaha means real. Anatma is, in the case of English, we can use the word unreal. Atma has independent existence. Anatma has borrowed existence. And this particular statement, Atma is independent, has independent existence, Atma Satyaha, Anatma has borrowed existence, Anatma is Mitya. This is not just the essence of this sloka, this is the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. This is the essence of entire Upanishads. This is the essence of entire Vedanta, especially Advaita Vedanta. In Advaita Vedanta we say Brahma Satyam Jagat Mitya, and that is what is given as a teaching here. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mitya. Now before we go into this sloka, to sort of deep dive, what we will do is we'll first see the meaning of the sloka, then we will do a vichara on Satyam and Mitya. Because when we first go through the sloka, it will not be able to get anything out of it. Then we will do a small vichara on Satyam and Mitya. Then we will come back to the sloka. We will be able to understand the same sloka better. And that is what, and that is how we will be able to appreciate the difference between reading, self-reading and understanding through a Sampradaya Guru. Vedanta, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita is not meant for self-reading. They are all meant for understanding and learning through a proper teacher who has learned through the Sampradaya. So first we will go to the sloka. Nasato vidyate bhavaha. Vidyate na bhavaha. Vidyate na bhavaha. Vidyate na. There is no. Vidyate na means there is no. Bhavaha. Bhavaha means existence. Existence. There is no existence. Vidyate na bhavaha. There is no existence. In Tamil we say existence iruttal. Iruttal. There is no existence for what? Asataha. Na asataha vidyate bhavaha. That is how you will have to split that first word, first sentence. Na asataha vidyate bhavaha. So means na vidyate bhavaha asataha. There is no existence for the asat. Asat here means unreal. There is no existence for the unreal. There is no existence for the non-existence, whatever. If you want to confuse, we can put non-existence, but we can say there is no existence for the unreal. There is no existence for the unreal. Then, na bhavo vidyate satah. Na abhavaha vidyate satah. Vidyate na abhavaha. We use the same. Vidyate na abhavaha. So there is no non-existence. Double negative. There is no non-existence for what? Satah. For the real. So there is no non-existence for the real. If we have to do this in Tamil, first sentence, na asataha vidyate bhavaha. Illamaikku iruttal illai. Illamaikku iruttal illai. Asataha means illamai. There is no existence. Iruttal. Illamaikku iruttal illai. Or rather, illamaikku iruppu kedaiyadu. That is the first sentence. Na abhavaha vidyate sataha. Irupukku illamai illai. For the real, there is no non-existence. Irupukku illamai kedaiyadu. So that the real will always have existence. So there is no existence for the unreal. There is no non-existence for the real. Ubhayorapi drishtomtaha tvanayos tattva darshibihi. Ubayorapi. Ubayorapi anyaha. Anyaha means, Ubayorapi means both of these. Which both? The first part of the first part of the first sentence and the second part of the first sentence. There is no existence for the unreal, there is no non-existence for the real. These two things, both these. Drishta antaha. Antaha means we can say end, or we can say the truth, the conviction, the truth. Drishtaha. Drishtaha means for the seer, is indeed seen. Tu drishtaha is indeed seen by who? The truth, antaha, the truth of both these statements. Antaha ubayorapi anyoha. The truth behind or truth of both these statements, tu drishtaha, is indeed known or is indeed seen by who? Tattvadarshibhihi. Tattvadarshibhihi means the seers of reality. Tattvam is reality. Darshibhihi means seers. The seers of the reality, or we say the wise people. Or in other words, Bhagavan says, the wise people have understood, the wise people have realized, the wise people have clearly ascertained, the wise people have been able to doubtlessly grasp this. What? The nature of both these statements. The nature of both these statements is, there is no existence for the unreal, there is no non-existence for the real. And the truth behind of both these statements is indeed known by the seers of reality. So we will keep repeating this statement until there is no existence for the unreal. There is existence for the real. This is the purport. This is the statement. This is the essence. If we act, and Bhagavan says, this statement, the seers of reality, the wise people know this. They can understand this. They have grasped this. They have been able to implement this in their lives. In other words, Bhagavan says, unreal does not exist. Real exists. Now this seems to be like very simple. I mean, why should even Bhagavan quote this? Unreal does not exist. Real exists. Is there even anything other than, can we even contradict this? No way. For example, if we say horn on a rabbit, is a common example used in the Shastras. Horn on a rabbit. Is it real? It is unreal. It cannot happen. Horn on a human head. It's not possible. Will someone say it exists? No. But when we say this laptop exists, this book exists, it is real and it exists. Therefore, the statement unreal does not exist, real exists, there seems to be no new knowledge that Bhagavan seems to give here. And that is why we need to do the vichara, that is why we need to learn this from the Guru Parampara. Because it's not straightforward. When Bhagavan says there is no existence for the unreal and there is no non-existence for the real, unreal is what do we call in unreal in Sanskritam, in Vedantic parlance? Asat. And the real is called Sat. Real is called Sat, unreal is called Asat. Now, whenever we talk about Asat, unreal, Asat has got two meanings to it. We'll see the meanings and then we'll go into the steps. Generally, we take step by step and then arrive at the answer. Here what we will do is, we will arrive at the answer and then trace back the steps. We'll do the reverse. So, what does Bhagavan say here? Sat. Sat means that which is real and therefore it exists. Sat exists. And we said Asat has got two meanings. One which we all know, when we say unreal, we all know. And the other meaning, we are probably hearing it for the first time. If you have not heard of the term Mitya, then we are probably heard, if you have not understood the meaning of Mitya so far, then we are hearing it for the first time. So when we say Asat, there are two types of Asat. One, Atyanta Asat. Atyanta Asat means one that does not exist at any time. One that does not exist at any time. In other words, when we say Shunya, Shunya means nothing. One that does not exist at all. More importantly, when we say Asat, it does not come into our experience at any time. It does not come into our experience at any time. I gave an example, horn on our head or horn on a rabbit's head. It does not come into our experience at any time at all. We don't see it, we don't hear it, we don't touch it, we don't feel it. It does not happen. Horn on a head. That is called as Asat. Now, that is called as Atyanta Asat. Then the second one is called Mitya. When we say Mitya, Mitya means that which is available for experience, but once we analyze it deeply, then it does not exist. It is called as Mitya. So Mitya is a term that is used to refer an object's nature of existence. If somebody says, what is Mitya? Define Mitya. Then this is the definition. Mitya is a term used to refer an object's nature of existence. What does the word Mitya refer to? Mitya refers to the nature of existence. So when we say Jagat Mitya, Jagat's nature of existence is Mitya. That is what we say. And what we say here when it comes to Mitya is, an object might look like real, might look like Sat, but if we analyze it, if we do a vichara on it, it will turn out to be non-existent. So, Mitya cannot be called as Sat. Because Sat means it has to exist for real. Whereas Mitya has some existence, comes into our object of experience, but when we analyze it, it is not real. And it cannot be called as Asat also. Because for it to be called as Asat, it should not be available for experience also. So Mitya is somewhere in between. It is neither Sat nor Asat. It is available for experience, but it does not exist. So how do we understand Mitya? The most famous example of Mitya is, we all know, the rope and the snake. So evening time, when it's actually a little bit dark, the sun has not fully set in, but yet there is not enough light. A person walks through a forest. On the way, he sees a snake lying on his way. He waits for the snake to move. It doesn't move. Then later on another person comes here. He basically clarifies to him and tells him that's not actually a snake but a rope. So he has been seeing this rope as the snake. This is the example. Now, if we have to understand, now let's try to understand Sat and Asat and Mitya with this example or with this analogy, with this story. Now, what can be the status of the rope? The rope exists. Rope exists. Rope is truth. So, rope is Sat. But someone sees the rope as a snake. So, once he sees the snake, he gets afraid. Right? So, there is a feeling. Of course, another person comes along, says that it is not a snake, it is a rope. This person gets the knowledge, and therefore now is able to see the rope. Now, when he was seeing the snake, can the snake be called Asat? Can the snake be called as unreal? As it does not exist at all? We cannot say that as Asat, because it was his object of experience. The snake was the object of experience. And only because the snake was the object of experience, he had experienced fear. Otherwise, he wouldn't have felt fear. If it does not exist at all, there wouldn't be any fear. So there was an existence, as in there was an experience. He was able to experience the snake, and therefore he had got that emotion called fear. And because he had this object of experience, it cannot be termed as Asat. So the snake is not Asat. Now, can the snake be called as Sat? Can it be termed as real? Maybe it could have been called by real by the person who is seeing the snake. But once the person sees the snake as the rope, once he gets that knowledge, once he gets that jnana, then he would say the snake does not exist. So he would say the snake is not Sat. The snake is not real. So the snake's existence cannot be called as Sat. It cannot be called Asat. Shastras call that existence, that state of existence between Sat and Asat, as Mitya. It's not between. It does not, because we have to understand this clearly. When we say it's in between, some people will think that, from Asat existence something goes into Mitya existence, and from Mitya existence it goes into Sat existence. No, that is not how we have to understand. These are three different types of existence. So Mitya is the state of existence for the snake. And generally what I was all of us are not aware of this state of existence called Mitya. We always know something which is real or unreal. We always talk in those binary form only. For Ajnanis, like us, the way we differentiate between Sat and Asat is anything that I experience is Sat, and anything that I cannot experience is Asat. So whatever we experience, we take it as real. We give the status as Satyam. I am able to see this, and therefore it is the truth. I am able to feel this, and therefore it is the truth. I am able to experience this, and therefore it is the truth. And anything that we cannot experience, we give the status of Asat. And if you look at it, majority of the Charvaka philosophy, the materialistic philosophy of looking at this world and the Ishvara is based on this only. The world is real because I'm able to experience. God is unreal because I cannot experience God. I cannot see God. And therefore God becomes unreal. Ashishji, I'll finish this section and then I'll ask you the question, because I think probably if the answer comes in between, it's well and good. So the person who is seeing the snake on the rope, what is the status that he is giving into the snake? At the time of seeing, he will say the snake is real. The snake is Satyam. So the world is available for my experience, and therefore the world is Satyam. Ishvara is not available for experience, and therefore Ishvara does not exist, as it is not available for experience. So this is how we generally tend to see the world. So how can we equate this? The world is Satyam, Ishvara is Asat. It is the same thing. If we go back to the rope snake analogy, then we can say the person who sees the rope as the snake, the ignorant person, when he comes in and sees the snake on the rope, he is ignorant of the rope. And therefore, you tell him, what is the status of the rope? He will say, rope is Asat. Snake is Sat. Snake is real. Rope is unreal. In the same way, we say, Jagat Satyam. This world is real. Ishvara is unreal. So what we think of Sat is not Sat, and what we think of Asat is actually not Asat. And Bhagavan is giving us a new knowledge of what should be termed as Sat and what should be termed as Asat. So we term an object as Sat if it can be experienced, and if it is not experienced, we call that as Asat. Bhagavan says, no, that should not be the way. He says, the object, just because it becomes the object of your experience, or rather whether it is in your experience or not, that should not determine whether it is Sat or Asat. Bhagavan is giving a new perspective for Sat-Asat Viveka. The same example we can take it, for example, a rope snake. We can also use it for mirage on the desert. The mirage, the water that I see on the desert. When I'm seeing the water, it looks as though it is real. Will I give that status as Sat for it? Will I tell that it is actually real? I will not. That does not have a real existence. Mirage is one example we can give. There is also another example we can give is basically the droplet of water on the shell in the moonlight. It actually glitters as though it is silver. But actually speaking, it is not silver, it is just water droplet. So these are things that are in our experience, and we take it to be real until we get the knowledge that it is not real. A perfect example could be the sunrise and sunset. We think that the sun rises in the east. The sun moves from east to west. This is our experience. Our experience states that the sun comes from the east, goes to the west. But the fact is, the sun does not move. It is only that the earth is rotating. But our experience says that the sun is the one which is actually moving. So we cannot go by our experience alone. And that is what Bhagavan wants to clarify. Bhagavan says, use your intellect. to identify whether the object exists or not, whether it may be in your experience, but do some vichara. If we use our experience alone, we would be cheated. The desert, we see water from a distance. When we get close, we will get cheated and know that it is actually a mirage. So we have to use our intellect. And if we go by our rational mind and not by our emotional mind, we will reach the right place. We will not get fooled. So Bhagavan gives us a basis to identify Sat and Asat. So how do we define Sat? How do we define Asat? It cannot be the object, or it cannot be the experience that defines Sat and Asat. So for any object to be called as Sat or Satyam, it has to fulfill two conditions. The first condition is that which exists in all three times. When you say all three times, past, present and future. Trikale api yadi asti tad satyam. That which exists on all three column, that alone is Satya. So when we say Sat, it has to exist in the past, it has to exist in the future, it must be existing now. It was, it is, it will be. That is the first condition. The second condition is Yat Swatantraya Tishtati Tat Swat. Swatantraya Tishtati means that which exists independently. That which is independent is Satyam. So Satyam means that which exists across three column and that which is independent. And for Mithya, we can give two conditions which is the opposite of Sat. Slightly different from Sat. For Mithya, the first condition is that which exists only in the present state. Yet Vartamana Kale Eva Tishtati Tad Mitya. Vartamana Kale Eva Tishtati. That which exists only in the present. It does not have existence in the past. It does not have existence in the future. That is the first condition. The second condition is Yat Paratantraya Tishtati Tad Mitya. That which is dependent is Mithya. So Satyam is independent, Mithya is dependent. And this is the definition of Sat and Mithya. This is different from the definition that we give for Sat and Asat. And this definition of Satyam and Mithya is very important. Whenever we say something is Mithya, you have to immediately know, you have to immediately recollect these two definitions. That which exists only in the present and not in the past or future. Two, it has got dependent existence. It is dependent on something else. What is Satyam? Satyam exists in all three kala, all three times, and has got independent existence. The moment, whenever the term Sat or Mithya comes, these two conditions should automatically come along with it. Only then we will be able to quickly understand the concepts. And only if we know this correct definition, we will be able to appreciate the significance of Bhagavan's Upadesha also in this Sloka. So, and generally we don't have this knowledge. This doesn't get taught in the schools. So, Bhagavan says, anything that does not exist in either past or will not exist in future, he says classify that as Asat or Mitya. Anything that is dependent on something else, classify it as Asat/Mitya. Mitya. So, let's take an example. When we are walking on a sunny day, we see the shadow. Is the shadow real? Is it Sat or Mitya? The shadow is dependent. It does not have independent existence. And therefore, it is Mitya. And not only that, the shadow can become will become non-existent if there is no light around me. So it has got only a temporary existence. So the shadow is Mitya. Now when someone stamps on my shadow, when someone uses a stick to beat my shadow, or when someone abuses my shadow, is it equivalent of stamping on me? Is it equivalent of abusing me or beating me? No. Why I am saying this? Please remember, we will actually go back, and then when we actually say what is Mitya, we'll have to remember all these things. So anything that happens to Mitya should not affect me. Here, in this case, anything that happens to the shadow does not affect me. Suppose I am walking through a passage and my shadow falls on an open drainage. My shadow falls on an open drainage. I walk past in the road. Does that mean that I am going through the drainage? No. So, remember this because we will come back to it afterwards. Mitya undergoes certain things that does not have any dependence. The Satya, the one that the person does not go through the same thing. The person is not dependent on the Mitya. The Sat is not dependent on Mitya. The Mitya is dependent on the Sat. So Mitya is what? That which is dependent on something else, and that which is available only for experience is called as Mitya. So we go back to the rope snake example. So even before the snake appeared for that person, and even when the snake appears to that person, and even after the snake disappears from the experience of that person, the rope existed. The rope existed in all three states. The rope was not existent. So the rope was present or the rope's existence was there constant. The snake was one which was superimposed on the rope. The rope exists in all the three states, past, present and future. And therefore, the rope satisfies the first condition of the Sat. Rope exists in all three states. And now the rope exists without any dependence on the snake. If I remove the snake from that rope, even then the rope exists. The rope does not exist because of the snake. Therefore, it also fulfills the second condition of Sat, and therefore rope is Sat. Now if you come to the snake is not present in three states. The snake was not there on the rope before the person saw it. Neither was it there after the person got this jnana that actually it is not the snake but only the rope. The snake ceased to exist after the person saw the snake, after the person realized it was the rope. It was only, the snake existence was only during that short time when the person saw the rope to be the snake. And the person saw the rope to be the snake because of his ignorance. So the snake exists only in the present. It does not exist in the past, it did not exist in the future. And the snake does not have any existence independent of the rope. It is dependent on the rope. If the rope is removed, there is no snake. But even if I remove the snake, the rope is there. So the snake is paratantram, whereas the rope is swatantram. So therefore the snake is Mitya, rope is Satyam. Mitya as a subject is difficult to understand. But if we remember this example, if we remember these two conditions and keep going back to the snake rope example, then we will be able to understand. Remember, when we say Mitya, it does not mean an object. When we say all are Mitya here, it does not mean that all are a particular object which is Mitya. All the objects here are in a state of existence called Mitya. We sometimes say Jagat Mitya. We say that the world is Mitya. Or we say, when we term an object to be Mitya, we say, what we mean there is, it does not exist in reality. It appears as though it exists. So we can say the snake to be Mitya when we are seeing it. The mirage example, when the water is Mitya when we are seeing the mirage. There is a difference between these two examples, the snake rope and the mirage. And this will also be used in later on when we actually go deeper into Vedanta. We will see, and that will be the difference for the. So when we talk about the world, we will not use initially to make us understand. It will be the rope and snake. Then we will have to go to the mirage example, because what happens in the rope snake example is, the moment I see the rope, I don't see the snake afterwards. If somebody tells me what is that, I will be able to clearly say that is a rope. The feeling that it is the snake will not come back again, because once this jnana comes, I will not go back to ajnana. So that is what we try to say for the rope and snake example. We use that to say, see, once you get that jnana, you will not get ignorance again. Once I know that I am Aham Brahmasmi, I will not go back to the state where I say, Aham, this body, mind complex. I will not go back to that state. But the other example, the mirage example, is used when we say, the world is Mithya. And the moment I get this knowledge, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, right now for my experience, the world is real. But the moment I understand that the world is unreal or Mithya, it does not mean that I will not see this world anymore. I will continue to see this world, but I will know that the world is unreal. It is just like the mirage example. Once I know that it is a mirage, it is not going to, my eyes are still going to see the water. But yet I will know that there is no water. In the same way, I will still see the world, and yet I will know that the world is not real. So that is the two different examples are being used for two different purposes. So Mithya is one which exists in our experience, but does not exist once we analyze the truth, once we do vichara. But what do we do? Generally what happens, we don't have the viveka, we don't have this knowledge, and therefore the moment we experience something, we give it reality. The moment I feel hurt, I immediately start despising the other person. The moment somebody says something, immediately I react, give reality to the words they speak, and also get anger in mind. So we give reality immediately. The moment we experience, we give it reality. And whatever we don't experience, we give it the status of Asat. In Shastras, there is another example that we give, which is also very popular example, and that is also used for other purposes also. And that is the clay pot example. So a person makes pot from clay. Now, what exists? Which is true? Is it true to say that the pot is Sat or the clay is Sat? That which exists in all three states is Sat. So clay was there before, is there in the pot, and will be there even after the pot breaks. So clay is independent also, and therefore clay is Sat. Whereas for the pot, there is no pot before the clay was made into a pot, and there will be no pot after the pot is broken, and its existence depends on the clay, and therefore pot is Mitya. And what is pot? Pot is with respect to clay. Pot is just a name and form given to clay. This is again another important definition or important point, a corollary that we actually derive from Satyam Mitya discussion. Mitya is nothing but name and form of Satyam. Pot is nothing but the Nama Rupa of clay. The cause, Karanam, is Satyam. The Karyam, the product, is Mitya. We see a table. The table is Karyam, product. But the table is just the name and form for wood. The pot is just the name and form for clay. So Karanam Satya, Karyam Mitya. This is known as Karana Karya Viveka, Karana Karya Tattva. What we generally do is, when we multiple definition to samsara, one of the definitions of samsara is taking the karyam to be satyam is samsara. Taking the product to be real is samsara. So when we go to the jewelry shop, we see various designs of gold. I like this form of necklace, that ring, that chain, and all those things. Bracelet, bangles. It's all karyam. We see reality in that. And that's why that is samsara. But the shop owner, he is in the state of satyam. He only sees the weight of the gold. It doesn't matter about the design. He is more worried on the weight of the gold. He sees only the karanam. So karanam satya, karyam mitya. I'll take a break here. This is too heavy, and then we'll again continue this in the next class also. We'll take this with Atma and Atma. We'll take this further discussion into Atma and Atma. Right now, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. Yes, Ashish ji.
Guruji, thank you so much. Actually, yeah, this is quite heavy. I had two queries actually. The first one was the earlier one. Maybe I missed because I got thinking while you were explaining. Probably got stuck on the mithya thing. So, mithya and asatya, the same thing?
No.
No. So the question really is, just as there is a satya and there is a so-called satya which actually is the mithya, so that differentiation is important, that it seems to us that it is satya but actually it is mithya and we need to discover it through the process of knowledge. Is there similarly an asatya which is true asatya and then there is an asatya which appears as mithya?
No, asatya means it does not exist at all. Say for example, it is not possible. It does not. Suppose if I say there is sun in every house, it does not exist. Or I say, people walk on their head. It doesn't exist. It is totally unreal.
Yeah.
So that is the other extreme end. That is what we call as asat.
No, the reason I was asking was, is there something which we should perceive as a falsehood, but really it seems to us as mithya, and hence there can always be that confusion that once you identify that as mithya, you do not really identify the real negative connotation of that particular thing.
Okay. Generally speaking, samsara is where we take mithya to be satyam. We generally do not give asatyam to be mithya or even sat. For example, when we say all these feelings that we have about kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya are all coming out of our understanding, our wrong understanding that something which is unreal, we give it to be we give reality to it. There is no case of totally unreal, as in which does not exist at all. Then we can say that comes under probably hallucinations or something like that. It doesn't come under Vedantic parlance of ignorance.
Okay. The second question is a little more complicated for me to really comprehend. Let me try and put it in words. So when
Rashiji, I am just to realize it's 4:58 here. Maybe 2 minutes. So if it gets cut, maybe I'll take it in the next class.
No problem. I'll just phrase the question and then maybe we can discuss it next time so that I don't forget. The question is really related to the mirage that you highlighted. Now, once I have identified that it is actually mithya, then I keep seeing it, and this is I'm talking about in life also, something that is actually a mithya. I identify that it is a mithya, but I keep seeing it. But at what stage, there could be a stage wherein I might actually see the real thing, and since I have formed an opinion that it is mithya, I may continue seeing a real thing as a mithya. So I may actually overlook a knowledge that is coming to me of a Satya, thinking that it is mithya. Can that happen? Is that something that can happen because of the inertia of thinking of everything as mithya around me?
No, everything around us is only mithya. Okay? Or rather, let me put this way. Quick example is, even after, do you need to see gold separately from the ornaments? Do you need to see clay separate from the pots? The pot is clay. The ornaments are gold. What we do have a problem is, we see only the ornament and not the gold.
Mm-hmm.
So at any point of time I have both these visions. It is what I choose to use is what matters. But both are always there. So when we say Jagat Mitya, tomorrow Brahma Satyam, I will not see some Brahman coming everywhere, suddenly covering the entire world, and I will not have a new vision. The world will continue to, I will see the world as it is, and I will realize that the world is nothing but Brahman. We'll discuss this much detail in the next class.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, please feel free to note it down or write it on the group or have it for the next class. I think we'll just close it for now because it's 5 p.m. here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om
Hari Om.
Hari Om.